today I'm going to be talking about what's up in the new study design for VCE English. This particular video is going to be quite specific to Victorian students in Australia, but if you are studying English elsewhere, then still listen because some of the tips that I give today may still be relevant to you. A new study design is always challenging for both teachers and students, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot ace exactly what is required of you. So let's go through what has changed in the new study design, what you're going to be doing, what the expectations are, so that you are prepped for the year to come and you can be ready to excel. Reading and creating. Now, reading and creating have been separated into two different components. Your first SAC for reading and creating will be a 30-mark SAC that will be based on just a standard text response. So if you aren't familiar with text response, it's basically just your most standard essay where you'll be doing an intro, body paragraphs, and conclusion based on one particular text that you'll be studying. The second part to reading and creating is the creating component. The creative SAC is also worth 30 marks. And in this particular assessment, what's required of you is for you to base a creative response on a text that you have studied. Now, this text is going to be different than the text that you have studied in text response, which we just mentioned before. So you'll be studying another book where you then go ahead and offer a creative response. So what do creative responses mean? Firstly, you still need to know the book really well, just as you would in text response. So things like characterization, themes, narrative development, meta language, all of those are still vital to your success. You need to know the book inside and out. The main difference, however, is that you then get the opportunity to write something a little bit different. So it really depends on what your school will be asking you to do. But you could be writing from a point of view of a particular character, an interviewer, a news report. You could do a poem. You could rewrite a passage from your particular book, or rewrite a scene, or completely change up the ending to your particular text. Because you get so much creative freedom, this usually means that students can do lots of different things, but they can often also get sidetracked. So just don't think of it as simply creating whatever you want to create and then that's what's going to score you the marks. What's really important here is that you actually include certain elements of what the author has done in your own writing. Your aim is to write with the author's voice as authentically as possible, as though they're writing it themselves. That way you can show off how well you understand this text, not just about the character itself or not just about a theme, but you understand the author's messages, you understand how they've developed a particular character through their choice of words and their choices of descriptions. Along with the creative response, you will be expected to write a written explanation. Written explanations are really straightforward. All you need to do is remember flap C: form, language, audience, purpose, and context. I'll have a video about this coming up very shortly. The next component of the new study design, and this is probably the newest section of them all, is called reading and comparing. Now, I've done a couple of videos on reading and comparing, which I can link to you at the very end of this movie, and I'll chuck it into a card just up there if you wanted to find out more. Don't fret, it is easier than it sounds. Just like with text response, you're gonna have to jump in depth and really get to know the ideas, themes, and issues of both texts. One of the best ways to do this is to find the similarities and differences between the two texts as a starting point for your comparisons. As you become more advanced with your comparisons, simply just looking at what's similar and different isn't going to be enough. You need to look at the bigger picture of things. What are the author's messages? What are they trying to say with each of their respective texts? Reading comparing is worth 60 marks and it will be in your exam. So your school will most likely spend quite a bit of time on this, and you yourself should also allocate that equivalent time in your own study. Then in the final part of the VCE English study design, you have language analysis, also known as analyzing argument. Analyzing argument essentially means that you get a bunch of articles that you will need to analyze. You'll be looking into reasons as to why the author has chosen to use particular language in order to try to persuade the audience, so you, to agree with what they've said. This one is worth 40 marks. notes. Then the other component to this area of study is called presenting argument. So this is your oral presentations. I've done quite a few tips on oral presentations, so I'll chuck them in the card up there. So if you wanted to find out more, then definitely go ahead and do so. You will also be expected to do another written explanation, so another flap C that's worth 10 marks in conjunction with your oral presentation. Finally, to your exam, 3 hours long. The first hour will be based on an analytical text response. So you will be responding to one of the texts that you've studied in Unit 3 at the start of the year. The second hour is reading comparing, where you will be comparing the two texts that have been paired up for you and the ones that you have studied in Unit 4. The last hour is language analysis. So again, articles that are given to you that you will need to analyze and see and try to identify how the author has tried to persuade the audience. So that is it with the new VCE English study design. In this very short video, I have tried to condense the information as much as possible, but to present it in a way to you that's still easy to understand. Don't forget as well, I am so excited because VCE Study Guides has just released our study guide based on the new syllabus. I've written them along with 2 other fantastic girls who both achieved perfect scores in English, so we're confident that it's everything that you need to help you on your VCE journey in English. That's it for this week. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. See you guys next week. Bye. Okay. Alright.